Or perhaps he's wondering why someone would shoot a man before throwing him out of a plane.
No, that's my cup.
No, this is my cup.
No, I was there.
No, you were here. I was here.
No, because then I moved it here, 30 minutes ago.
Yeah, so this is my cup.
No.
Then why are you drinking out of my cup then if that's your cup?
No. This is my cup. That's the one I just picked up.
That's what I said.
Wait, what? What did you say?
I said that this is my cup.
Okay.
Hello everyone, Justin here, and...
Oh no!
Intruder! There's an intruder in here!
I'm the scary intruder. I don't know what to do now.
I really gotta be careful about how loud we are, because there's neighbors and the walls in this building suck. But I am joined by words are difficult today with Celeste, who is a friend of mine and a fellow student at film school.
I am the French critique.
Yes, she brings all of her croissants and her baguettes and her TFLs to examine this exquisite.
This was a big
Look at that.
This was a big merde. Yeah. Mm.
Very well. And we just saw for the first time The Truman Show, which I've heard a lot
about. Are we in
about.
The Truman Show right now?
Well, yeah, there's a camera right there.
Yeah, exactly. There's a camera right there.
Yeah.
How many others is there in the room?
That one.
Have we been filmed this entire time while watching The Truman Show? Dun, dun, dun.
What if The Truman Show was just government propaganda trying to hide the fact that we're actually in The Truman Show? They can always pass it off as, oh, well, you just got it from that movie. Those conspiracy theorists just got it from that movie. I thought that it was really interesting because I had heard a lot about this movie for quite a long time. I thought it was pretty fun. I thought it was pretty interesting. What did you think?
I liked it, but the thing is that, I really liked the concept, but I was expecting more in the sense that once you know the concept and you know what's happening, which we all already know because this is the most famous film ever, it's I was always expecting more. But what is funny, what I was telling you while watching it, is that you keep being very intrigued, even though you think oh, this is horrible, how can people watch those things, but you fucking watch it.
Yeah, basically the movie is saying hey, all these idiots, that's you. That's you. Yeah, I feel like this movie would be very much different. Again, 1 a.m, very tired. I feel like this would be a really different experience if you didn't know what it was about going into it, because then because we went into it knowing exactly what it was about. It was about this guy who's basically lived his entire life in a simulated reality show and just didn't know, and the movie's about him starting to catch on to it as an adult. Because we went into it knowing what it was about and went into it knowing eventually what was definitely going to happen, at least I feel like we kind of missed out on what could have been the experience with it. I really want to know what it's like to see this movie as not knowing anything about it and just going into it completely blind. I really want to know what it'd be like to see that, because I feel like some of the stuff in the movie that you can obviously see coming would be a little bit more surprising. That being said, it's still a good movie. There are still a lot of really good moments. There's this one scene, I don't want to give too much away, where the main character Truman is trying to he's trying to see how far away from this town he can get, and how far the boundary is. And basically the people who are running the show put up this fake nuclear disaster or something to block the roads and block him from getting out. And like when the cop like comes by and says, "Sorry guys, you can't get past here. There's a big problem. We've closed down the road or whatever." He's like, "Okay," and the cop says, "Yeah, sorry about this, Truman." And then he's like, "You know my name. How do you know my name?" Like there are a lot of moments like
He
that.
didn't actually say anything.
Yeah. Oh, but that's what he's thinking,
Big
right?
spoiler.
That's what he's thinking though. So like there are a lot of moments like that where it really does work. I mean, it is a very enjoyable movie, and it sucks you in very quickly. Like within a few minutes of the movie starting, you're into it. At least for me.
Yeah, that's very true. But I just, I think it's the kind of movie for which you have to kind of have like no trailer at all. Like, have you ever watched Citizen Kane?
Yeah.
You've watched the trailer for Citizen Kane?
No.
Okay, so actually, guys, you should really watch the trailer for Citizen Kane before watching the movie, because it's very interesting. Because Orson Welles did the trailer, I believe. I might be mistaken, but it's very interesting because they don't actually say anything about the movie, but they're just like, they just talk about like Kane, basically. Like they just talk about him, like all the people from the cast and everything, from the crew and everything. So it's like you don't actually know what the film is actually about. You're just very intrigued by this person.
I'll turn you over instead to the characters in the picture. As you'll see, they feel very strongly on the subject.
Charles Foster Kane is...
Sure, he started the war. But do you think if it hadn't been for Mr. Kane, the United States would have the Panama Canal?
Charles Foster Kane is nothing more or less than a communist.
Mm-hmm. And of course, at that time, there was no internet, so it's not like like people can just like
analyze every single frame.
Yeah, exactly. And
top 10 Easter eggs you missed in the Citizen Kane trailer.
And they can just how do you say oh, my French. Now it's like 1 a.m. and I want to talk French. So basically, like right now, it's kind of impossible to just like have no trailer for this and just have make it punishable by the law if you try to make a trailer of the film or whatever, but that's not freaking possible. So it's kind of really sad because I feel like this movie is really, really enjoyable just if you have no idea what the fuck is going on. Imagine you go to a movie, imagine you see this for the first time in theaters with a full house and everyone's just what the fuck is going on? That would be freaking dope.
Yeah, I really want to know. It's kind of like, have you ever seen A Beautiful Mind?
No.
Ron Howard's A Beautiful Mind? Okay, well, that movie I did go into completely blind without knowing anything about it, and it was one of the most holy crap, mind-blowing...
Beautiful Mind?
Yeah, it's directed by Ron Howard, starring Russell Crowe. It's really good. And there's about 30 minutes in, there's a massive plot twist 30 minutes in that completely changes the entire movie, and you do not see it coming at all if you go into the movie completely blind like I did. And that was such a mind-blowing experience watching that movie completely blind. So I feel like if this movie would have been a similar experience if I had gone into it completely blind. But even knowing what it's about, it's still... I still think it's a really fun movie.
But we were talking about how there is a lot of things that kind of don't make sense. That are kind of unjustified. Like small things. For example, big things actually. Why did they tell the guy that there is other countries and stuff like that where he's supposed to be she should be completely uneducated technically, because if you have because it's the myth of the man in the cave, right?
Yeah,
it's you only believe what you see. So if a person just he doesn't even have to go to school technically, he can, but you can really choose what he learns.
Yeah,
it's kind of insane. Why did they teach him that? But what I was gonna say is I don't think it matters that much, because as we were saying, for example, in Harry Potter, there are so many things that don't work too. But then again, you're just
yeah, the Harry Potter movies, for example, like you said, if you think about that world and the way that fictional world works for more than 5 seconds, so much of the logic completely falls apart. But those movies still are great, and the books, of course, too. So, yeah, there are a lot of things in this movie that don't quite add up. Really, he's 30 years old and he's just now starting to suspect that there's something weird going on.
By the way,
Like,
I still
what?
don't know if he has sex or not with his wife. I have no idea what he thinks about like sex and
He
other
may not
stuff
even
and,
know
like-
that exists. Like that, like a plot line is that
Yeah, but like for example, remember that scene where she's like, "Oh, come to bed." Like I really wonder if it's like "come to bed" or just like "come to bed and lie next to me." Like
because like they say in like if
baby,
they say they want to have a baby, and it's
Yeah.
like if this movie is saying that like if like the like audiences will actually watch people like procreate on TV, that raises a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Actually. A lot of
Well, I don't think so because otherwise we would probably have a hint of it. You know what I mean? Because they wouldn't hide it. Okay, so I kept thinking about this a French TV show that's called Secret Story. Like it's actually the English title, Secret Story. Like there is no French title. Like we do that sometimes. I don't know if there's
That's a secret story.
like Secret Story. Actually, we say it like that. Secret Story. Well, sorry.
One time she was talking to me and a few other people, and she said, "Oh yeah, it's a lot like Monty Python," and we're like, "What?" And like Monty Python, and we're like, "What? It's Monty Python and the Holy Grail?" And we're like, "You mean Monty Python?"
Okay, so anyway, the Secret Story, there was actually a huge scandal that just came out, like, because, like, one of the person that was on the reality TV show kind of, like, made a YouTube video about, like, how they were actually treated, and it's not that far from, like, the Truman Show, to be completely honest. I mean, it is far, but not that far. Like, so basically the whole show is that, so it's, like, people, I think they're, like, 10 or whatever, who are, like, locked in a house. And basically there is the voice, which is like a really low voice that tells them like stuff to do and stuff like that. And basically every candidate has a secret. And like all the goal is like for people to find each other's secrets. So then, you know, you're the last one with like who kept their secret all along. And the thing is that you can't get out of the house for like 3 months unless you're, you know, like, you know, every reality TV show, they kind of just like let people go at some point. Like you have to like vote who goes away or whatever. And the thing is that it's actually really freaking terrible because like the living conditions are terrible. First of all, like apparently they have like no like it's really hard to take a shower because like there is like 1 or 2 showers for like every person that is there, like for like 3 months or something. Then they're not allowed to clean the house or something, like, or like someone comes I think every month or something, but like because the thing is that they're always recorded, it's like 24/7. So like the show is not 24/7, but they record 24/7, so then they can cut out stuff or whatever. So the thing is that if there is like someone who like does the cleaning and whatever, it like also like you know, like the sound of the vacuum cleaner, then you can catch stuff that are interesting. So if people want to say like things that like they shouldn't say, they can say it when like the person vacuum cleans, right?
Yeah.
So you can't vacuum clean.
Wow.
And stuff like that. It's a real thing. And then other stuff is like, for example, like they keep saying like the voice says to like one person that like this other person said that or whatever when it's not true, and then they like literally create fights. And then they do a lot of things like that. And it's really, really scary. And also it's like apparently people have a lot of breakdowns, but it's like hard to have a breakdown because like you're always fucking seen. And like also sometimes like it has happened because like there was this one person who asked this girl who confessed about the show, like, you know, what they do about like for example if they want to have sex, what do they do? Well, apparently there's a few techniques, and one of them is to actually like have sex in the living room in front of everyone, because then they can't diffuse it. So they will like have to change person or whatever. So it's kind of like really scary when you get to that point where you're kind of like, okay, I'm gonna fuck in the living room because you don't know what else to do. Like it's terrifying.
Yeah.
And apparently they literally just like go insane. And the thing is that the really funny part about this is that there is like 2 or 3 people, maybe more now, who confessed about the show, and they all kind of have a different story. And at the end they still say that they still made some like really good moments with the people around them and stuff like that, which is kind of scary because I feel like they're still a little bit brainwashed.
Yeah.
So it's like they keep saying how like this girl keeps saying how she got kind of forced into doing it. I mean, she didn't get forced, but they kind of like, you know, really pushed her to sign it. But then again, at some point, it's like they didn't actually put a gun in her head. So it's like you have, like, they choose the people who can be a little bit, you know, pushed and like who can be like want to be under the spotlight, like very oh my god, my English, like who really want to be under the spotlight. So then like. You know, like there's a lot of things that kind of don't make sense when they're like, oh, but we still had a good time. So it's kind of like, do you actually like? It's weird, you know what I mean? Like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, like, of course, the obvious real world comparison, you know, with this movie and everything is, you know, the whole social media thing. Like, I can imagine like a million different grandmas just out there, like. That's what it's like with the Facebook and the Instagram and the Snapchat. You're always being seen by everybody. And to some extent, that is true. I don't think we're quite there yet. But it is 100% believable to me that we could be at this place one day. Where, you know, people are just, they spend all their time watching someone else's life instead of living their own, you know?
But you know what could actually happen? Right, because like this will probably not happen with a human, but with a robot or something. You know, like that could be more believable in the sense that like, oh, it's not an actual human, so it's fine, but then it's kind of not fine.
Yeah.
Like that, I could really believe that it's something that could happen in the near future.
Yeah, and that reminds me of one really interesting point that this movie makes is because this fake simulated world that this show is in and that this Truman guy is placed in is pretty much perfect. Every day is all bright and sunny and beautiful. Everyone lives in a really nice house. He has this really nice wife. Everyone's super friendly. He's got a great job. Like, it's just a perfect life. And, you know, the film does raise the question, like, the real world is screwed up. The real world has a lot of problems, you know. Yeah, he's a prisoner, but at the same time, it's a perfect world. It's like, is it better to be in this perfect world that's not real or this horrible world that is real? And I think that's a really interesting point, a really interesting question that this movie brings up. I love how they do the ads. Like whenever he's talking to someone in this world, like in the middle of the conversation, they'll just be like, you know, yeah, I'm really tired, but thankfully I can get some caffeine with this delicious Coca-Cola or something. Like it's that isn't one of them, but it's just that type of thing where just in the middle of a conversation or whenever someone's drinking a drink, like the logo will always be facing the camera or something. They really,
that's really good.
The product placement in the ads, it's a really nice touch that really helps. Not only that, but a lot of the camera angles, like even the camera angles in the film that aren't supposed to be actual cameras that are being used to film this show, they still feel like it. They still feel like you're hiding behind something, looking and eavesdropping when you're not supposed to. It's shot very well in that way.
I think one thing I really liked about the way it was shot as well is that we never ever see the exterior world. Really? Because like the only time where we see the people that are not in this crazy world are either inside apartments or inside this big control room. Yeah. Which is very smartly done, I think, especially because the first time we see outside of the world is just in the control room. Yeah. And I mean, they could have, you know, shown him like get mad and like get out of the control room and like go talk to. They could have had protest or whatever.
They could have had a cheesy shot of him walking out into like a street in the real world and then just coming down on his knees and feeling the sun for the first time. Like they could have had a really cheesy moment like that, but they didn't, and I think that really works. There's a series of Canadian horror films called the Cube series. They do kind of the same thing in that series where like you never, like the whole movie takes place in this simulated environment and you almost never see the outside world, the real world, and it works really well in those movies and it works really well in this as well.
You know, I have to say that this is a very educational night because originally we just wanted to watch a film that we watched like 30 fucking times.
We were originally going to watch
Like
Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire.
And then we watched this, and then we're like, oh, we should do a video at the end. And then we're doing this video. Like, we were so productive while thinking that we're just gonna have like a very lazy, like, you know, like it's interesting how this had turned out.
Like we're both
Yeah.
really, really, really deep into pre-production on very big short films and
Very big short.
and very, very, very large scale short films. And so basically we were just like, let's have, a nice night where we're not working on anything or stressing out about anything. Let's watch Harry Potter. And so we were gonna watch Harry Potter, and then we were in the middle of downloading the movie legally. I own it. We were in the middle of downloading the movie, and she says, "You know what I've never seen before? The Truman Show." And I was like, "Yeah, I've never seen that either." And like, "Okay, we're gonna watch the Truman Show." And then literally I go to the computer to stop the download on Harry Potter, and it's at 99.99%. And it's like, I can't tell whether I find this hilarious or I hate my life. I literally can't tell.
Cut that.
Yeah.
You're gonna do like a zoom on me when I say cut that. Are you doing the zoom? I see you, Justin, in the editing room. Justin, are you following my finger now?
No.
That would be cute if you did. Ah!
Watching this movie and the main character being Jim Carrey, being played by Jim Carrey, reminded me of a time I was in Copenhagen in Denmark, and I was at this amusement park, and I was there with my family, and all of a sudden this
Why wasn't I there then?
Because I didn't know you. This was several years ago. And this massive crowd of people show up, and there's like security, cops, TV reporters, and news cameras. This massive crowd of people shows up, and they're making a path for someone who's coming. So of course me and my family are like, "Oh my goodness, who's coming?" And we overhear someone say, "It's Jim Carrey. It's Jim Carrey. Oh, really? Jim Carrey's coming." And we got really excited. We're like, "Jim Carrey's here? Yeah, we're going to see Jim Carrey." No, it turns out it was United States Secretary of State John Kerry. And we got so excited, but it was... Now, seeing the current Secretary of State at the time was... it was cool. But, I mean, someone said it was going to be Jim Carrey. But it wasn't.
But it wasn't.
It wasn't.
It wasn't the big Grinch.
No. That would have been cool, though. Well, we're really tired, and we've kind of run out of things to say, and we've been mumbling a lot and life and
27
stuff.
minutes and 58 seconds.
But thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, if you want to see more of my ridiculous stuff, you can subscribe, maybe leave a comment that's not saying something super mean. The Aquaman video was fun. And I will see you guys later. Thank you once again for Celeste for coming on.
From the sky.
And goodbye.
Celeste, get it?
Bye. We're tired. No one likes your jokes.
Fine.